Hi, and welcome to the Trade of the Day for the 3rd of November. My name's Tom. I'm a senior trading analyst here at Trendsignal, and ahead of the 12:30 trading room we're doing at lunchtime today, I wanted to run through the opening market, the German 40. There's a really nice clear trade, an example of what we do with this system that I can run through. And hopefully you'll join us later, not only for some live trading that you can trade on the back of as well, but also just to learn more about the best ways to handle intraday volatility. So if we jump straight into this, essentially we generate a trade with the dynamic trader system. As soon as we get a flip over in these black arrows, they indicate the end of the previous movement and the opening of a new movement. This occurs when the price, the candle, comes up and meets the arrow, in which case on the next 2-minute entry, you will get a new position started to be scouted out. And essentially you go through a 5-step process to find out exactly if it's an entry or not, or if you need to wait a little bit longer. So let's go through them. Number one, where is the arrow? The arrow is outside of these bands. That implies the market's been stretched. It means that we need to take less factors into account, essentially, before we make the movement. So this is what I like to call an explosive trade. Step two, we look for green vector averages. We've turned from red to green in time for the open, which is pretty good. Step three, we need the candle to be above the black PE1 in the center. Now, this isn't valid at the first position, at the open of the candle, but at close of the candle, we are above. So that's perfectly fine, 2 minutes in. We then need to look if the market is wide enough. This is given by the R ratio on the left-hand side, which is positive in green, telling us that it's plenty wide enough for us to trade. And finally, there's the trend direction. Now, with this particular style of trade, called an explosive trade, we can trade with or against the trend, so we don't really care. In this case, the trend is actually against us. We go from this candle to this candle, where the arrows flip between, and we can see in between there's an orange line in the center. So on this one, we enter. If I zoom out quickly, because it is quite a big mover, this becomes our stop loss, where our arrow is. The top of this candle becomes our entry, and our most passive exit approach becomes this black arrow stop you see on this red pull down just here. This generates 103 pips worth of movement in the best part of about 30 minutes. I mean, to put that in perspective, pound per pip beginner account, it's 103 quid in your back pocket for half an hour's work. £2, 206. You probably don't need me to go through too many examples to show how big that ends up getting. Now, there are two things to consider in this as well. There is the maximum potential return. There was more distance to take into account before this black arrow. In this case, it's not a massive difference, but sometimes that can be a big difference. So we'll talk about that later in the session at 12:30. But you also actually get something pretty interesting, which is a continuation of the trade. We have these vector average lines turn to red, or one of them turn to red, turn back to green. This gives us what's called a technical continuation, in which case we end up with a fairly big movement on here relative to the stop that's generated. So the way that these work is, generally speaking, you'll go to the lowest point in a long trade like this, the lowest point of the movement itself, which is actually smack bang at the bottom of the red candle. So by the time you re-enter this, you come in, you would put a little bit more space on here because we're literally talking about 3 or 4 pips there. You probably end up going back down to the black PE if it was my particular trade. You can then run that up, come back down, we turn to red, we turn back to green, and you can get in for another continuation trade, or you can wait for the standard trade that develops later and is also profitable. There's a lot of ways to trade these markets. We'll teach you them all later today. Come along, join, ask questions, trade live with us. Hopefully, we'll see you at 12:30. There should be a form around this video.